The modern battle tank is an awesome combination of firepower, mobility, and armor protection. Recent developments in ammunition technology, in automatic stabilization, and in integrated fire control systems with laser rangefinders coupled to onboard computers means that today's tank has an extremely high chance of a first-round hit. Improvements in engines, suspension, and transmission systems give the modern tank high speed over rough terrain, while passive night vision devices and thermal intensifiers enable it to operate in all weathers by day or by night. Modern tanks can keep moving where a four-wheel drive car would become hopelessly bogged down. They can ford water obstacles with little or no preparation. A tank can crush a lesser obstacle with its sheer weight. Almost all modern AFVs, or armored fighting vehicles, are also protected against the hazards of nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare. Speed and agility make the modern tank an elusive target, while smoke grenade dischargers allow it, if it gets into trouble, to hide itself from the enemy. Armor protection has not been neglected either, for a tank cannot fight unless it can survive. The still-secret Chobham armor fitted to the latest British, American, and West German tanks makes them almost invulnerable to frontal attack. Above all, the modern tank can deliver a terrific punch, which could not have been dreamed of by the original designers in the First World War. First World War tanks were slow, cumbersome, and only had armor protection against machine gun fire, but the concept proved workable. During the interwar years, many weird and wonderful designs were developed, some combining wheels and tracks to give good on- and off-road performance, but such machines were too complicated. Gradually, the shape of the modern tank emerged, fully tracked and with a revolving turret. Early AFVs were always compared with the cavalry. The Swedish IKV-91 is variously defined as a light tank and a tank destroyer. First entering service in the mid-1970s, it is a low, sleek, four-man vehicle weighing only 16 tons and is principally designed for infantry support operations. The IKV-91's low silhouette makes it a difficult target to hit, even with modern missiles aimed through night vision sights. IKV-91 is itself fitted with comprehensive night vision and sighting systems. Its well-sloped, welded steel armor and small turret add to its protection, although they only offer the crew shelter against weapons up to 20mm caliber. A top speed of over 40 miles per hour is a further asset. This comes from a 6-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine, which also gives a range of 310 miles. Main armament of the IKV-91 is a Bofors low-pressure 90mm gun with a fume extractor in the middle of the barrel. This can fire high-explosive, armor-piercing rounds at 2,700 feet per second. Reloading is extremely fast. Spent cartridge cases can be ejected through small hatches in the turret to prevent their getting underfoot. The IKV-91 can even fire its gun while swimming, the water absorbing most of the recoil. The tank is fully amphibious and can propel itself through the water at 4 miles per hour, driven by its tracks, or in later models by retractable propellers built in at the rear. Screens prevent water slopping into the engine or fighting compartment, and a bow vane protects against being swamped by waves. As secondary armament, the tank has 12 smoke dischargers and 2 machine guns. Originally, the coaxial machine gun served as a rangefinder for the main gun, but today a laser is used. The machine guns are, however, still useful against enemy infantry positions. Another light tank, the Scorpion, built in Britain by Alvis, also emerged in the mid-1970s, although it is officially designated a tracked reconnaissance vehicle. Scorpion is the first of a whole family of vehicles employing the same engine and chassis. Weighing only some 8 tons, all are air portable, a factor which has led to their wide export around the world. Scorpion is a 3-man vehicle powered by a 6-cylinder Jaguar sports car engine, which gives a top speed of 50 miles per hour. More recently, a diesel engine has been fitted, which together with other improvements is claimed to give 30% better performance. The vehicle's cross-country maneuverability is exceptional, and it proved its worth in the Falklands conflict, particularly during the final fighting around Mount Tumbledown and Port Stanley. The vehicle is not amphibious, unless flotation screens are erected, but it can ford water up to 3.5 feet deep. Scorpion has only aluminum armor, but further crew protection is afforded by the front-mounted engine. The tank's main 76mm gun fires APDS, armor-piercing discarding sabot ammunition, effective at up to some 1,600 yards. A variant of Scorpion, called Scimitar, is armed with a quick-firing 30mm Rardin cannon, which is devastating against other lightly armored AFVs. A 90mm gun can also be fitted to give an even greater anti-tank capability. The use of common parts throughout the Scorpion range makes servicing and maintenance much simpler than in the past. Other members of the Scorpion family include an ambulance, armored personnel carrier, command and engineer vehicles, and a missile-armed tank destroyer. The American M48 Patton II and its almost identical successor, the M60, has been, since the late 50s, one of the principal tanks in NATO's European front line. Both carry the British-designed 105mm gun, widely adopted around the world ever since it first appeared in the Centurion. Until the advent of even more powerful and accurate 120mm guns, this was the tank gun against which all others were measured. Being, in effect, designs of the immediate post-war period, both M48 and M60 suffer, by modern standards, from high silhouettes, which make them vulnerable targets, and with maximum armor thickness of only 120mm, they are now considered inadequate against modern anti-tank guns and missiles. During NATO maneuvers, a convoy of M48s and M60s, accompanied by armored personnel carriers and self-propelled guns, is observed by enemy reconnaissance and then attacked by enemy aircraft and helicopters. On today's battlefield, the agile helicopter, with its ability to fire missiles while hovering in a fold of ground or in the tree line, is probably the tank's main enemy. Crews of tanks and other armor cannot hear the aircraft over the sound of their own tracks and engines. Also, apart from top-mounted machine guns, they usually lack defenses against air attack. The continuing battle between armor protection and firepower, which goes back centuries, and the more modern conflict between the tank and helicopter is still with us and will certainly continue. The Bofors S-103 was an unusual attempt to gain the best benefits of both protection and firepower. It is popularly known as the S-tank. Some people believe it should not be called a tank at all, because it lacks a turret. All tanks have a fully tracked chassis, which give them good mobility over smooth or uneven ground. Conventional tanks have a gun mounted fairly high above the ground in a revolving turret. The S-tank, however, has its 105mm weapon mounted in the top of the low-slung hull, fed by an automatic loader at the rear. The S-tank is normally crewed by 3 men, seated centrally where they are best protected. At a pinch, it could be operated by 2 or even 1 man occupying either of the 2 front positions. In comparison to a conventional tank, the S-tank has a remarkably low silhouette. Lacking a turret, the S-tank aims its gun by swiveling its whole chassis. Elevation and depression are achieved by raising or lowering the hydropneumatic suspension. With a combat weight of just under 40 tons, the S-tank is also capable of traversing smoothly despite minor obstacles in its path. If a larger object gets in its way, it can swivel on its own axis to bring its gun to bear. A low silhouette is an obvious advantage, allowing the S-tank to hide easily in a true hull-down position awaiting its prey. If cover is not immediately available, it can dig itself in using a frontal dozer blade, which when folded back into the traveling position also adds extra armor protection, particularly to the tracks. The tank elevates and depresses its guns smoothly through 22 degrees, which is better than most tanks can manage. The advanced suspension gives an even ride over tricky obstacles. At the tank's rear, the automatic loader is fed to capacity with 50 rounds. The crew scramble into their positions. The internal layout, though futuristic in appearance, is designed for maximum simplicity of operation. This eases crew fatigue and makes them more efficient. The driver usually aims and fires the gun, acting on directions from the commander. However, the commander has duplicate controls and can take over at will using his gyro-stabilized sights. This can be important when an unexpected target suddenly appears. As soon as a target presents itself, the S-tank comes to a halt and engages. cartridge cases are automatically ejected after firing, saving clutter within the vehicle. The tank can then move forward again. Should a threat to the flank emerge, the commander can traverse to meet it, or lay down smoke from his 8 dischargers and tell the 3rd crew member to beat a hasty retreat. This man is normally the radio operator, but he has his own rearward-facing driving controls. The S-Tank has built-in flotation screens, which can be erected quickly to make it fully amphibious. In the water, the tank is propelled and steered by its tracks. For all its advanced technology, though, including a gas turbine engine to give easy starting in cold weather, and a subsidiary engine to keep the systems ticking over while stationary, the S-Tank has one major drawback. It cannot fire while on the move, which makes it primarily a defensive rather than an offensive weapons system. The same cannot be said about Chieftain, which has been the mainstay of the British Army since the early 1970s. Designed to replace the Centurion, which has seen so much action around the world since the 1950s, Chieftain was originally intended to be a tank in the 40-ton class.
I must congratulate the Financial Secretary on one point in the Army estimates. There has been no tampering with the cavalry. In the battles of tomorrow, when all the mechanized vehicles have broken down, and when the petrol dumps have all exploded, then the cavalry will come into their own again.
It ended up with a combat weight of 55 tons, which put enormous stress on the engine, and in early exercises resulted in a 90% breakdown rate. Subsequent modifications to the L-60 multi-fuel power pack, as well as to the transmission and suspension, soon improved this, but the engine has been a recurring problem to British tankmen. In other respects, Chieftain was, and still is, one of the finest tanks in the world. It has extremely thick and well-sloped armor protection. The driver in the hull front lying in a semi-reclining position to reduce the tank's overall height. The other 3 crew members, commander, gunner, and loader, sit in the turret fighting compartment. The principal feature of Chieftain is its extremely accurate 120mm rifled gun, which can fire a wide variety of different types of ammunition. These include high explosive and squash head rounds, as well as high-velocity APDS ammunition, which is said to be able to knock out any known enemy tank at ranges over 3,000 yards. The gun is fully stabilized to allow Chieftain to fire with equal accuracy while moving or stationary. Original Chieftains had a coaxial ranging machine gun, but they are now fitted with a fully computerized integrated fire control system and laser sight. During firing exercises, the crews are first briefed. They then deploy to their individual vehicles. As the tanks begin to roll onto the ranges, each flies a green flag. They then take up their firing positions. Here, a commander takes the opportunity to clean the gunner's periscope. When the gun is loaded, a red flag replaces the green one. During the first part of the exercise, the tanks fire in turn from stationary positions. Later in the exercise, they engage moving targets while themselves traveling at speed. Machine guns also spatter imaginary infantry positions. The exercise over, the tanks return to their marshalling area, while the results are assessed by the umpires. For the crew of one tank, however, that engine seems to be playing up again. Despite its age, Chieftain is still the principal weapon of the British armored divisions in Germany and will remain so for a number of years to come. Its combination of good armor protection and hard-hitting gun place it well to the fore in the NATO front line. The Leopard is one of the most versatile of all post-war tanks. When the war ended, German industry was in ruins, but its scientists were still largely intact. Whereas British, American, and Russian tank technology was tied to the past, the Germans were able to rebuild from scratch. Germany's experience of armored warfare was far more extensive than that of the wartime Allies, and they used the experiments and mistakes of both sides to come up with one of the most versatile of all post-war tanks. The Leopard 1 is of conventional design, with hull and chassis surmounted by a fully revolving turret. Like all modern tanks, it has an engine unit which can be removed and replaced in the field, saving invaluable battle time otherwise lost on maintenance. The transmission system is a similar module which can be changed quickly. Main ammunition stowage for 42 rounds of 105mm shells is at the front. The gun is the proven British L7, as fitted to so many other post-war AFVs. Further ready-use ammunition storage space is provided in the well-shaped turret. This also incorporates a coaxial and an anti-aircraft machine gun. The original Leo 1s had cast turrets, but after an interim period of adding on applique armor plates, these were eventually replaced by a welded design featuring spaced armor. The Leopard is very much of an all-rounder with high agility and good cross-country handling. After suitable preparations, Leo 1s can ford rivers up to 13 feet deep, the commander giving the driver instructions from the top of his wading trunk. This is not a new idea. Panzer IIIs were similarly equipped during the Second World War for the planned invasion of Britain, which never came off, although they did see valuable use later in Russia. Track guards provide extra protection against high explosive anti-tank rounds. Mud and snow groutsers are routinely carried on the glacis plate and can replace the rubber track pads when required. The German army remembers the problems its tanks had during the Russian winters. Both commander and driver have passive light intensifiers, which enable them to see clearly by starlight without revealing their own presence to the enemy. Because it weighs only 40 tons, the Leopard 1's 830 horsepower engine gives it extraordinary agility at a top speed of over 40 miles per hour. Modern improvements to the fire control equipment, coordinated by a dual-axis mirror system, means that the tank's gunnery is as accurate by day as it is by night. A laser rangefinder is now also being retrofitted as standard, which improves the chances of a first-round hit. Although the Leopard's armor is only some 70 millimeters thick, its design gives excellent ballistic deflection properties. An overpressure NBC system gives the crew additional protection against air contamination. Leo 1s are also provided with smoke grenade launchers to provide rapid screening in the event of a surprise attack. Like several other post-war tanks, the Leopard was designed so that it could be adapted to a variety of other purposes. One is the Bergepanzer, an armored recovery vehicle with a powerful winch for hauling other stranded AFVs out of difficult situations. It also has a bulldozer blade and a crane, which is used in changing Leopard engine packs. The Bergepanzer normally carries a spare engine on its rear hull for just this purpose. The combat engineer version of Leopard is similar to the Bergepanzer, but instead of carrying a spare engine, has a retractable vertical earth-boring drill. It is also fitted with a dozer blade. One of the most impressive of Leopard variants is the Biber. This is a vehicle which can lay a 66-foot bridge capable of carrying all NATO tanks except the weighty Challenger. It is unusual in that the bridge is extended horizontally rather than unfolding through 180 degrees. This helps conceal the vehicle from the enemy. With such a sound basic design, it comes as no surprise to learn that other requirements were foreseen and catered for early in the production program. One of these is a computerized simulator, which allows future Leopard tank drivers to learn their skills without wasting fuel and perhaps knocking down some irate farmer's barn by mistake. A tiny road wheel follows the driver's control movements over a miniaturized landscape, and pictures from a small TV camera on the road wheel show him where he is. This learning process was taken even further with the Leopard Trainer, a turretless tank with a glassed-in superstructure housing the driving instructor. The high cross-country mobility of the Leopard 1, coupled to impressive reliability, have resulted in widespread export success to Canada and Australia, as well as several European countries. The 105mm L7 gun is still one of the world's foremost tank busters, even though it has been overtaken by other more powerful pieces.
Get out and fire!
Leopard 2 is the logical successor to the Leo 1, with a larger 120mm gun and Chobham-style armor. It evolved from talks with America in the 1970s aimed at jointly producing a new NATO tank. But these eventually foundered, so the Germans went ahead with their own design. The Rheinmetall 120mm smoothbore gun, developed for the Leopard 2, is extremely accurate. It can kill enemy tanks at ranges up to 4,000 yards by day or night. The gun, which is also fitted in the American M1A1, fires fin-stabilized ammunition. Two types of anti-tank rounds are available: APDS and HEAT, or high explosive anti-tank. The cartridge cases are semi-combustible to reduce clutter in the fighting compartment. The gun sights are fully stabilized. On the left, an unstabilized view. On the right, the gunner's view. A thermal image intensifier picks up the infrared signature of a target vehicle so the gunner can lock on under all weather conditions in daylight or darkness. If there is a failure in the main integrated firing system, the gunner has an auxiliary sight. A panoramic periscope in the turret roof gives the commander all-round vision. He can also override the gunner and can himself lock onto and engage a target. The integrated fire control computer automatically processes all necessary data. This includes range, type of ammunition selected, cant angle of own vehicle, movement of target, and movement of own vehicle. The gun can fire with equal accuracy whether the tank is moving or stationary. Auxiliary armament includes a coaxial 7.62 millimeter machine gun for use against enemy infantry. There is also an anti-aircraft machine gun on the turret roof. For protection against both solid armor-piercing and hollow charge rounds, Leopard 2's upper hull and turret feature the layered ceramic armor developed by the British Fighting Vehicle Research and Development Establishment at Chobham. The tank's floor plates are specially shaped to diminish the effect of mine explosions. Leopard 2's exceptional mobility is generated by its 1,500 horsepower turbocharged diesel engine, which gives the 55-ton vehicle an exceptionally high power-to-weight ratio. Turret-mounted smoke grenade dischargers allow it to escape if attacked in an unfavorable position.
Fahrer, 12 Uhr zugeworfen. Dort Stellung. Durch die Senke fahren, Marsch, Ende.
Filters to protect the crew from nuclear, biological, and chemical contamination can be changed from outside the tank. Leopard 2 is thus a very elusive target to hit and difficult to destroy, while itself being able to deliver devastating firepower. For speed, it can accelerate from a standing start to 32 kilometers or 20 miles per hour in only 6 seconds. Leo 1 has a top speed of 72 kilometers or 45 miles per hour. Braking distance from top speed is only 35 meters or 38 yards. Essentially, the lower hull and running gear are virtually unchanged from the Leopard 1. The hydro-pneumatic suspension gives infinitely variable steering. The tank can turn on its own axis in a mere 5 seconds. Leopard 2 can easily cross a 10-foot trench. It can also climb anti-tank obstacles over 3 feet high. Even sets of road obstacles do not interrupt the smooth ride. Like the Leopard 1, Leo 2 can be quickly fitted with deep wading equipment, allowing it to cross rivers up to 13 feet deep. The commander directs the driver from his conning tower while the vehicle is submerged. The driver has exceptionally good visibility through wide vision blocks. Ease of maintenance is a major feature of both Leo 1 and 2. With the help of a Bergepanzer's crane, the entire engine pack can be changed in the field in only 15 minutes. With some 1,800 tanks in German Army service alone, and others built for Belgium and in Switzerland, Leopard 2 is one of the most important vehicles in the NATO armory. Its exceptional firepower, mobility, and cross-country performance will certainly enable it to give a good account of itself if ever called upon to do so. The blunt-nosed AMX-40 is descended from the AMX-30, which was produced from the mid-1960s. The French, with long experience of desert warfare, have produced a tank especially suited for dry, dusty, and rocky landscapes. The AMX-40 has a French-designed 120mm smoothbore gun, firing fin-stabilized rounds with an effective anti-tank range of over 3,000 yards. Unusually, it has a coaxial 20mm quick-firing cannon instead of a machine gun. Main gun ammunition is stored in the large rear turret bustle, which incorporates blowout panels for safety. The ammunition cartridges are combustible. The main gun is fully stabilized, and the tank has an integrated fire control system with laser rangefinder. With all-round vision, as in the Leopard 2, the commander can acquire a target with his panoramic periscope. A target can be tracked while both vehicles are moving. Next, the main gun is aligned on the target. The laser is brought into play, the computer makes final adjustments, and the gun is fired. As with most modern tanks, this gives something like 90% first round hit probability. Laser ranging measurement, correction, and firing take fewer than 7 seconds. Armor penetration with either solid discarding sabot or hollow charge rounds is impressive. Turret-mounted launchers allow the AMX-40 to conceal itself with smoke or to fire anti-personnel grenades. Passive night vision equipment enables the tank to continue fighting after darkness has fallen. The AMX-40 has Chobham-style laminate armor. It has good cross-country mobility, whether the ground is hard or soft. An 1,100 horsepower diesel engine gives the tank a top speed of 44 miles per hour and a range of 370 miles. Once the gun is locked onto a target, the turret stays pointing in the right direction, whatever the tank's driver does. As with all modern tanks, The AMX-40 has automatic fire extinguishing equipment and is fully protected against contamination hazards. Even though France is no longer a full member of NATO, it is good to know that a vehicle of this caliber would be available in the event of a Warsaw Pact invasion of Europe. The Abrams tank comes in two versions. In its M1 form, it packs the British 105mm rifled gun. In the M1A1 version, it carries the same Rheinmetall 120mm smoothbore as is fitted to the Leopard 2. Both variants are America's front-runners in the best tank in the world stakes. Fitted with well-sloped Chobham armor, ammunition stowage in the rear turret bustle, automatic fire extinguishers, and a complete NBC protection system, Abrams is the first really new American main battle tank since the end of the Second World War. Propulsion is by means of a high-performance 1,500 horsepower gas turbine engine, which gives easy starting under the coldest weather conditions and a high power-to-weight ratio. Unfortunately, the engine runs very hot while idling, producing a high infrared signature for the enemy to detect. The 120mm gun on the M1A1 has laser range finding, integrated fire control systems with onboard computer, fully automatic stabilization, and everything else you would expect in a modern main battle tank. First round hit and kill capability is thus almost assured. Abrams has a power-to-weight ratio and cross-country performance virtually identical to the Leo 2, partly as a result of the American and West German government's cooperation during the early design stages. Top speed is about 45 miles per hour. Trench and vertical obstacle capabilities are also just about the same as the Leo 2. Range is over 300 miles. Abrams carries its own internal smokescreen generator. The only thing the Abrams lacks is the Leopard's deep fording ability. Rivalry between NATO's tank crews is, even if friendly, intense. The Canadian Army Trophy competition, popularly known as the Cat Shoot, provides a safety event for this rivalry every 2 years.
Display red.
The competition involves firing live rounds at static and moving targets while stationary and on the move yourself, as well as machine gunning infantry positions. Points are scored not just for accuracy, but also for the time spent in acquiring each target. In a recent competition, the U.S. 8th Armored Division, equipped with 105mm armed M1s, stole a last-minute victory over the West German 124th Panzer Battalion's Leopard 2s. Third were the Belgians, also with Leo 2s, and fourth the Canadians with Leo 1s. It all goes to show, no matter how advanced your technology and crew training, skill and morale are what count in the final analysis. The British Mark III I tank is one of the most recent developments by Vickers of the original cheaper Chieftain, which has seen success with the Indian Army under the name Vyayanta. Companies such as Vickers Defence Systems have a long tradition of private ventures, and British industry is constantly producing new developments which the government of the day doesn't want or can't afford. Industry also appreciates that the stringent requirements of NATO are not always required by other countries. The 3i has the same basic turret as the Vyanta, but a new hull with a more powerful 900 horsepower Rolls-Royce diesel engine, giving improved cross-country performance. Produced for export only, it does not have Chobham armor protection and retains the 105mm L7 gun. If that gun can still win cat shoots, though, this is no real disadvantage. The futuristic-looking Vickers FMC VFM5 is still at the pre-production stage. With both turret and hull built of aluminum, the VFM5 weighs in at less than 20 tons. The contoured shape is specially designed to reduce shot traps and improve battlefield survivability. Powered by a General Motors Detroit 6-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine, this highly sophisticated and agile tank can reach speeds of 45 miles per hour. This could be exactly what overseas customers want in a lightweight, cost-effective vehicle, but fitted with modern vision and sighting equipment and a fully stabilized 105mm gun. The Vickers Mark 7-2 is a development of the earlier Valiant main battle tank. It could be described as a lightweight Challenger and shares many of the same characteristics, including the basic hull and turret shape. It comes fitted with Chobham armor as standard and can mount either the 120mm L11 or the Rheinmetall 120mm smoothbore gun. Weighing some 10 tons less than Challenger, it is powered by a German MTU diesel engine, giving a top speed of about 45 miles per hour. All sights are independently stabilized to enable the commander and gunner to select, hold, and engage a target on the move by day and night. The British Army's Challenger is arguably the most powerful tank in the world today, just as Chieftain was before it. Work had begun on a successor to Chieftain as soon as it started entering service. But after a long, drawn-out development period with rapidly rising costs, the MBT-80, as it was known, was abandoned. By this time, though, an improved Chieftain was in production for export to Iran. When the Shah was toppled by the Ayatollahs, the British Army was able to buy these tanks, renamed Challenger. The first difference between Chieftain and Challenger lies in the latter's 1,200 horsepower Rolls-Royce engine. This is nearly twice as powerful as the Leyland L60 power pack, so although Challenger is some 7 tons heavier than Chieftain, it is more mobile. Top speed is given as 35 miles per hour, but range has not been disclosed. The increased power, coupled to a new hydrogas suspension system, gives greater reliability and a smoother ride. Main armament is the same 120mm L11A5 rifle gun as on the Chieftain, although a new high-pressure version is under development. This means both tanks share the same ammunition. Challenger was the first tank in the world to be fitted with the revolutionary Chobham armor, which provides protection equal to 4 times the thickness of conventional hardened steel, but weighs considerably less. As you would expect, Challenger's gun is fully stabilized to permit accurate firing while on the move. There is a fully integrated fire control system and laser rangefinder, and Challenger is also being retrofitted with TOGS, the Thermal Observation and Gunnery System for night firing. Secondary armament comprises a coaxial and an anti-aircraft machine gun. Conventional smoke dischargers are being replaced by a new system which protects the tank from infrared as well as visual observation. The high mobility of such a heavily armed and armored vehicle unquestionably makes it one of the best tanks in the world, if not the best. What about the future? The tank is constantly evolving, and the next generation, for the year 2000 and beyond, may look radically different. The idea of the turretless tank is gaining vogue. The crew would all sit in a well-protected fighting compartment while directing the gun, which would have full 360-degree traverse in a small unmanned cupola. The tank would be driven and the gun aimed and fired by means of panoramic zoom lens video cameras coupled to a laser rangefinder and computerized control systems. An automatic loader would be essential. Given this sort of configuration, the gun could possibly be given enough elevation to allow it to double as an anti-aircraft weapon, but this would mean finding room in the vehicle for target acquisition and tracking radars. The ultimate tank may in fact be entirely unmanned, a robot vehicle remotely controlled by a crew sitting safely in a bunker miles away. But self-styled experts have been saying the same about the manned combat aircraft for decades, and there is still no real replacement for the man on the spot.